Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Keystroke POS Live. I'm Jay Rastuccia, and today we're going to discuss inventory reports. A few brief words on Keystroke Live is we hold Keystroke Live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. You can use the same login information. Week to week, we'll cover topical technical training for the Keystroke point-of-sale software. Each month, the first Wednesday of every month is hosted by SBS President Michael Gebb. And again, as I say, today we're going to review inventory reports. Few words on reports in general in Keystroke. Keystroke offers very customizable, flexible, and powerful reporting capabilities. It allows us, Keystroke will allow us to save our report settings for your most commonly used reports. Our saved report settings can also be used to run in an automated manner as a scheduled task, so that reports could be scheduled to run nightly using Windows Task Scheduler. Our reports also support just innumerable variations and settings and adjustments that could be made. So when we're looking at any given report, it's important to remember that the results that you get are not the only results that can be obtained with that report. Layout by using different form files can be adjusted. Groupings by adjusting group by settings can be applied. So our reports really offer a very flexible and customizable approach to running your reports here. So what are we going to discuss in the inventory reports? What do inventory reports include? The inventory reports, of course, obviously refer to your inventory database, all of your inventory items, and then further we get into sales and purchases based upon the inventory items. So we see we can use sales analysis reports and sales history reports that are all based on the inventory items themselves. This is opposed to, say, sales reports where we're looking at transactions, or we're looking at things like customer activity, or things like receivables and so forth. The inventory reports are really completely focused upon the inventory items themselves. And as I said, that includes both the sales and purchase, an analysis, which gives us an overall view of sales and purchases, a history, which will give us more of an itemized view of what has been sold or purchased. But then we have some of the lesser used reports for inventory, and these would be our exceptions reports, sales and purchase exceptions for line item markdowns, which would of course be markdowns made in sales. But then we have the exceptions reports that also include things like returns to either customers or from customers or to vendors, returns in sales or purchasing, and our non-inventory sales of purchases, or sales or purchases, transactions that were made of items that you don't actually stock, yet you may have ordered for a specific purpose or for a specific reason. I'd like to just jump right over into Keystroke now. I'll show you some of what I'm describing here. So our inventory reports are some of the more widely used reports throughout Keystroke. Just about any user that we work with, any dealer that we work with, they all rely very heavily on the reports in inventory, both the database but also the sales and purchase reports under inventory. Database is rather self-explanatory. We're just going to switch right over to it here, and we see our a very basic and standard sort of configuration for the inventory database report. Let's just take a look at what we have right now. These are generally speaking default settings. What we're that we're seeing here. We're not applying any grouping. We're not applying any ranges. We're sorting the output of the report by the inventory items descriptions. We're not applying any filters anywhere. We're not limiting the report to in stock only or anything like that. Again, very basic report. Everybody should be familiar with this. It's just using our form of price list and product code. Just a simple price list report. Really very plain, nothing fancy to it at all. And here we see our layout. We get about, in this set of data, our sample data, we have about 126 items here. Again, all we're seeing here, nothing unusual here, just a plain old price list. But if we go right back to our database report, now we can start looking at other variations of this report. Let's start with a form file. Let's you see we include a pretty lengthy list of standard form files, and each of these form files is going to determine the layout or the presentation of the information that you get. We started with a price list with product code. Let's say we want a cost list to actually see our inventory costs. Simple adjustment. Now we have our costs of inventory in the same report. Then it gets far more detailed than that. We'll see a quantity list is a really popular report, as would be a totals with profit or totals with markup. Let's have a quick look at that, and we see each inventory item. We see the current quantity on hand, see the cost, the total cost, the price, the total price. We see the profit, and we see a profit percentage. Again, and we're not changing any of the other values of this report. We're only adjusting the form file to be used, and it's giving us completely separate layouts. Obviously, as dealers, you are licensed with the dealer only, or you are licensed with the report editor. Users running advanced POS also have access to the report editor. Certainly a more complex component of the Keystroke software, and many dealers find that even if a user does have the ability to edit their own reports, many users don't want to invest that time in learning the how to edit reports, and that's where, as dealers, you can offer another service to them by creating custom report forms and giving them, really tailoring their form files, report form files to their specification. So again, really nothing complex here about our inventory sales or inventory database report. But as I said, we can certainly get into further settings. Very commonly, a user wants to see things broken down by, say, department, and see what they've got in each department, or category or location for that matter, or items that they purchase from specific vendors. Let's take a quick look at a grouping. And as we group by department, we can arrange the departments by code or name. Code's usually adequate. Detail is going to give us a choice to see either just a summary, which would be department totals for your inventory, or detailed, which is going to show us the department totals, but also each individual item in the department. We can print individual departments, and why don't we do that? We'll take a look at some individual departments here, and here when we group, and this is very consistent throughout the program, anywhere that we have a grouping, we can often apply an individual grouping, which allows us to select a single component or a single record from that grouping. In this case, departments. I can select just my books department and see all of the books that I have in that department. When I use an individual grouping, Keystroke begins generating the report and immediately returns you to the list of departments or grouping records. So I could continue to add items or add groupings to the report. So let's say I want books and clothing. Run that. Let's say that's all I need to see. Well, then I just hit escape, and that finalizes my report. And here I have my inventory database report. It's now grouped by department. I see my books department. I see my clothing department. This is all really very straightforward stuff. Like I said, very widely used. Everybody runs inventory database reports. It's for some purposes. Everybody at some point needs to see their total inventory, their total cost, their total details on their inventory. So again, one of the most commonly used reports in the program. When you find a way that find a set of settings that really suit your preferences, of course you can always save those settings. Shift F10, this is universally used for saving report settings, where we can create a new report setting, assign what registers have access to the setting, whether an individual register or all registers. We can assign a security level to determine who would have access to a saved report setting. Again, same holds true for any report in Keystroke. You can save your report settings, and they can be referred to very easily at a later time. And as I said, they could be added to a report queue so that reports could be automated, or groups of reports could all be run simultaneously. So moving right along, I want to jump into the additional inventory reports. And again, another very common report, a very widely used report, is our sales analysis report. And what this gives us is totals of sales. It gives us sales totals per inventory item. So it's not necessarily giving us transaction totals. This is giving us sales totals for each item. Again, one of the most commonly used reports in the program. Again, we apply a wide range of form files to be used. And again, in this list, we see many of our own custom files that we use in-house. I'll just run through this here, and let's restrict this report to sold items only. I only want to see the items that I have sold within a given time frame here. Again, what we're looking at is generally default settings. We're not applying any groupings. We're using a very simple settings for inventory. No ranges, no filters, or any other settings that would exclude any items. Aside from sold items only, which is just going to give us results for what's been sold. And since I'm using my sample data, which is a very small amount of data, I'm going to use a very wide date range for the report. And again, nothing particularly special about this report. I got a single page of all items that have been sold within in my case, a very wide date range. Everything is organized in this case by description. I see the quantity that has been sold, the average cost that it has been sold at, and the total cost for what has been sold. I see the average price, the average at selling price that the item has been sold at, and I see my gross revenue and my profit calculations. Nothing particularly unusual about this report. It's just a sales report by inventory item. I can see each item that has been sold, my costs, my prices, and my profit. But again, as we go right back to the report settings, we can really get into to far more sophisticated and elaborate settings, namely starting with grouping. Let's say I want to see by customer, for argument's sake, see, or by clerk, see who has been selling what items. Let's try to take a look at clerk for argument's sake, and we're going to leave all other settings alone. Just apply a grouping. Again, this is going to be a detailed grouping, so it gives us not only the totals by clerk, but we see individual items sold by that clerk. So I'll use my same date range. I see a bit of a longer report here, and I see right away I've got under clerk 1, I see several. I see all the items sold by clerk 1. Pretty extensive list. I see clerk 2, and I see the items that clerk 2 has sold. So this has given us a breakdown, and then of course each clerk is subtotaled by the quantity of items that was sold, the average cost of the items that was sold by that clerk, total cost, and so on. So I'm seeing very much the same details, but I'm seeing it broken down by clerk rather than just a straight list of items. And furthermore, our groupings go further still. We could, as I said, go by customer, by salesperson, not necessarily the clerk that rung it up, but the salesperson assigned to the transaction. I'd say most commonly we're going to see groupings by department. You'll probably get this request from your users fairly regularly that they want to see sales by department. Not an uncommon request at all. If I want to group by department with the same data here, I'm using all the same information. What did I enable here? All right, and so here I get a breakdown by department. And that's not, I'd probably need to be working with a bit of a different data set because it's not giving me my results. But again, what I would get would be a breakdown of each department, the items within the departments, and the quantities of those items that have been sold. So again, really common reports, sales analysis. It is just a, it shows us cumulative sales by inventory item. And that'll take us to our sales history report. Gives us a little different level of detail here. Again, because we're working with inventory reports, all of these reports are based on the inventory item itself. And in this case, I'll use all of our default settings again. Here I run our sales history report, and I begin to see sales of individual inventory items. Let's go to my first page, and I will see an entry for each item that has been sold, and then within that item I will see an entry for every transaction that the item has been sold on. So this is also a widely used report. This is going to be a report that's used when users want to see the history of sales for an item. They don't want just a total. They want to see when it was sold, who it was sold to, what price it was sold at on each transaction. That's going to be our inventory sales history. And again, similar groupings, all similar settings where we can apply restrictive ranges to restrict the results to specific ranges. For example, items, in this case the ranges are always refer to the sort by parameter. In this case it'd be description. I could do a range of A to M and just get items with descriptions from A to M. I could sort by stock number and do 1 to 100 and just get stock numbers 1 through 100. So again, we can continue to add these refinements to the report to really tweak the report to the user's specifications here. Of course, save that report so they don't have to come back and reapply settings and remember which settings, such as filters or ranges or groupings, we save these settings, we give it a familiar title to it, such as sales history by department or sales history A to G, a familiar setting name so they know when they want these results, this is the report for them to use. Everything I have shown you here under sales has a corresponding report for purchases, and it's couldn't really be much more self-explanatory. You know, when we're looking at purchase analysis and purchase history, it's really the same thing. If we look at the purchase analysis report, virtually indistinguishable from the sales analysis report. Only thing that jumps out at us here is that we see that we're reporting on purchase invoices. We see the items, we're looking for items that we have purchased within our date ranges. Of course, I have my purchased items only parameter. Other than that, if I run this with all our standard report settings, I get a good breakdown, again, not of the transactions themselves, not my purchase transactions themselves, but the items that were purchased within my date range here. So really also commonly used, we can get an idea of what quantities of items have been purchased within a range and what costs those items have been purchased at. Like I said, a very, almost a mirror image of the sales analysis here, the only exception being that it's purchased items rather than sold items. Same holds true with our purchase history. This is a really useful report as far as purchases go because, again, what does it do? It shows us each item that was purchased, and then we get a breakdown of all transactions that it was purchased on. So we get a clear history of who you've been purchasing particular items from, what costs they've been purchased at. I'll run this with the same settings here. So here I get all of my all of the items that I've purchased, and actually I have quite a lengthy purchase history. But I see each item, I see the transaction it was purchased on, and I see the date it was purchased, the vendor it was purchased from. Let's see if I get into some larger. So here I've got some items that I purchased, say, more than once. And I see the transaction that it was purchased on, as I said, and the date, and the vendor that I've purchased from, and the different costs that I've purchased the item at. So I can get a real comparative look at what I've been purchasing and from whom, and at what costs. So again, very widely used report. That'll take me to our exceptions reports here, where in our exceptions, we'd see things like sales returns, a return being any transaction where we have put a negative quantity on there. I don't think we've got any in this actual data set here. Let me have a quick look. No, simple enough just to demonstrate though. I'll just jump over to our sales manager. I'll assign a customer to a transaction, and I've got an item I want to return. There's my return item. Return is nothing more than a sales transaction with a negative quantity, indicating that the stock is going back into inventory and that you are issuing some payment, some sort of a return to the customer. In this case, I'll say I'm just doing cash. Do a quick save, and right back to my report manager. Let's look at the sales returns again. All default settings, nothing uncommon here. I'll just run this for today, and I see there's my return. Here's the transaction that was returned, the date, the clerk that returned it, the customer that it was returned to. Of course, the stock number and description with the product code, quantity that was returned, and the price that it was returned at. Very simple report, but also very widely used. This is many users run this report at regular intervals. They want to know at regular intervals how much merchandise is getting returned, how much are they paying back out to their customers. You know, this is very useful to most of our users. And if I go back to our exceptions, you'll see I've got a few more options here. Rather self-explanatory here. Non-inventory sales is exactly that. These are items that do not exist, sales of items that do not exist in your inventory database. Line item markdowns, that's going to reflect items that have been marked down. Let's shoot right back over to my sales manager here. And I'll give you an example here. So I've got a customer that comes in, and I've got an item on the shelf that I've never added to the inventory. Maybe it's a special item that came as like a promotional item from a vendor, something like that. Generally not an item that would be carried in the store, but going to be sold anyway. So I'm going to F9 into description so I can type in a description. And I'll just call this a miscellaneous. We'll call it a widget, just a miscellaneous widget. And right away I'm prompted that this is not an inventory item and asking if I'd like to proceed. And in this case I'll say yes. It's a quantity of 1. We'll say that this item's $5. And I will pay it by check for this. And I'm going to save that item. And so I've just sold a non-inventory item here. Let's also look at a line item markdown. That's, again, very self-explanatory here. I've got a mouse pad I'm going to sell. Its price is $8, but I want to sell it today to this customer. Give them a deal, tell them it's $7. I just marked that item down. All right, I'm going to save the item or save that transaction. Let's go back to our report manager and see how these sales display. So we'll look at first our non-inventory sales. And we have, again, very standard settings or default settings. Just okay. Here's, we'll use today's date. What do I see? I see the transaction that I had a non-inventory sale on. I see the date, see the clerk that rang it in, and I see miscellaneous widget as the item on there. This is a very useful report. When we look at other sales reports, if I take a moment to go back to our sales analysis, other sales reports like the inventory sales analysis, which we know is looking at each inventory item, each inventory record, it's not going to recognize non-inventory sales. What are we going to see? We'll see on this report, items not found. We have an entry here labeled items not found. Why? Because it's not an item that's in inventory. What we use to identify that would be a report like the non-inventory items exceptions report. And back to our exceptions, we have our line item markdowns. Again, very default settings. We could, of course, always use filters. We could use, there's really not much by way of form. We're just getting a very basic report of items that have been marked down. This is telling us when a clerk has changed the selling price of an item. All right, and here we have our line item markdown report. It is just a simple report showing us, again, transaction date, customer, clerk, and the item that was marked down. We see the price that it was sold for. We see the actual markdown and the total discount that was applied. The report can also be used to display when an item was marked down by a price formula that may be temporary, that someone may have configured in the configuration manager to mark down qualifying items. We'll see that there, but we can also restrict the report to overrides only. Overrides would be when a clerk has deliberately changed the price on a line item. So this also holds true. We show similar exceptions for purchases as well. We don't have a line item marked down for the purchases report because you don't mark down purchases. Purchases are made at the cost that you purchased the item for. It's not considered a markdown. It's considered whatever you purchased that item for. So we have our purchase returns, where we're just going to see, very much like the sales returns report, where items have been returned to a vendor. We're going to see our non-inventory purchases, where you may have put an item on a purchase transaction that, again, you don't intend to keep in stock. You're just purchasing it on a for a particular occasion. Items that you've purchased from your vendors that are not going to go into your inventory. Beyond that, all that we have left on our inventory report is a scripts report. We put this here because our scripts are associated with inventory items, and we want somewhere where we can find a good detailed list of what scripts have been created and assigned. And again, if I leave this as just very default settings here, I will enable don't print if empty, so I don't see all inventory items unless they have a script assigned. I'll just select OK. So here I get a layout, a detailed list of the scripts that we have assigned to our inventory items. I see a department script that does a couple of things here. It gives us a reminder message. It's a department script that's assigned to our book department, and it also assigns a tag-along item of a bookmark. And that's used anytime we sell a book, and we can at least see what are these items, where are they used. Here's my gift basket inventory item, where I see all the scripts assigned with that. So we consider these scripts reports part of the inventory reports, again, because these are scripts that are assigned to inventory items. Really self-explanatory there. But again, I just wanted to briefly review our inventory reports. As I said, they're very widely used by most of our users. I'm sure all of you have some familiarity with these reports. And again, what I really want to convey here is that these reports are very configurable, that you're not stuck with, let's say, a single report, but we can really apply adjustments to the report to affect the output of the report, be it whether we want reports for single departments or ranges of items or items that filter for a specific manufacturer. Very customizable. They can, of course, always be saved, and that's going to really, really simplify things for users when we can give them a list of saved report settings that's recognizable to them. As I said, department sales report or customer sales analysis report. Settings suited to each user's specifications that are saved are something that they'll rely on day after day. And if any of you come up with any thoughts or questions on how we can adjust reports or how you want to get the desired output, of course, we're always available at tech support to help with these sort of things. Did anyone have any questions for me today as to anything we've reviewed here? Was there anything I could clarify on our inventory reports? Oh, let's see. Harold, are we getting a blank screen? That's unusual. All right, well, if anyone does have any questions regarding any of the material we've discussed today, as I said, we're available at tech support to answer any of your questions. Please join us next week where Keystroke Live will be hosted by SBS President Michael Gebb. And thank you all for attending today. And again, please feel free to contact us with any questions. Thank you and have a nice day. Oh, did Larry leave? Turnover ratio, shit. It was there.